Blog Talk Radio.
Well, now my daddy's gone to glory. I work real hard. I drank corn liquor. That's the truth.
He's the kind of boy seems innocent, Boogie. Got everybody on the post thinking he's a strong black buck. White boys envy his strength, his speed, power in his swing. Then this colored champion lets those same white boys call him Shine or Sambo.
Whoa, Lord.
And he just smiles.
Dream about the time when I was a little boy.
Can't talk.
The night would get
Can barely read or write his own name. And don't care. He'd tell you they like him. Or that colored folks ain't supposed to have but so much sense. You know, that was one ignorant Negro could do. We were in France in the First War. We'd won decorations. But the white boys had told all them French gals that we had tails. Then they found this ignorant colored soldier. Paid him to tie a tail to his ass and run around half naked making monkey sounds. They put him on a big round table in the Cafe Napoleon. Put a reed in his hand, crown on his head, blanket on his shoulders, and made him eat bananas in front of all them Frenchies. Oh, the white boys danced that night. Passed out leaflets with that boy's picture on it. Called him Moonshine, King of the Monkeys. And when we slit his throat, you know that fool asked us what he had done wrong. My daddy told me we got to turn our backs on his kind, Wilkie. Close our ranks to the chitlins, the collard greens, the cornbread style. We are men, soldiers. And I don't intend for our race to be cheated out of its place of honor and respect in this war because of fools like CJ. You watch everything he does. Everything. You know, that's why
to act accordingly, to deal with traitors accordingly. And I'm ready to roll my sleeves up and get busy.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade, Justice in for another program to share constructive information on racism, white supremacy, what it is, and how it works. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the broadcast. I'm a little congested. Hopefully that I don't sound too bad, but I am a little congested. Before we hop into the program, we will be back. The next scheduled broadcast will be this Monday. That would be February the 21st, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Our guest will be Dr. Kamal Cambone, the infamous sound clip for the cows. Oh, it stopped playing.
Our people are very serious about not being very serious. Meanwhile, white people are very serious about playing hardball against us. And this hardball is called genocide.
This Monday, Dr. Cambone, he will be here this Monday evening. We'll be talking about some of his writings, his views on white supremacy. Should be very interesting. And this Monday, 2-year anniversary, if you can believe it, 2 years at Blog Talk Radio for the cows. But that's down the road. Getting to this program, I believe folks thought some of the information from our most recent broadcast was constructive. We devoted the program to discussing how many non-white people criticize and focus a lot of attention on President Obama and placing a lot of blame and culpability on him for a lot of the incorrect things that are happening in the area of the world known as the United States. I think we had a pretty good discussion. A lot of folks called in and listened, and it seemed like people, or at least some people, were seeing the logic in focusing attention not on other victims, but focusing on white people. The problem is white people. We really ought not to be wasting a lot of time griping and targeting other victims who may or may not be doing the correct thing, but they are not most to blame for the problems that non-white people face worldwide. There was a lot of discussion. I think it was constructive, and folks wanted to continue the dialogue, and I think it's great if we can come up with other suggestions for ways to kind of break this cycle, because I think this is standard racist code, figuring out ways to manipulate victims to focus attention on one another. So we're going to have kind of a panel of guests to come in and share their views, just their observations on this phenomena. And again, hopefully we can get actual suggestions, things that we can implement down the road to kind of diffuse this. So when we see other non-white people focusing on other victims, even if it's ourselves, we kind of see that we're focusing a lot of attention on another victim. What are some things to do to kind of get things back on track and keep the attention where it should be on white people? Our guests for the program, they have both been here before and shared tons of constructive information and suggestions on ways to work against racism, white supremacy. They have both written books on racism, white supremacy. We have discussed their books in detail on the program, so you can go back in the archives. If you have not read these folks' material, if you've not heard them share their views before, please dig back in the archives and really check them out. I think you will be very impressed and appreciative of hearing what they have to offer on this program. One of our guests, she was just with us this past Wednesday. She has been with us numerous times. She is the co-author of Trojan Horse, Death of a Dark Nation. They have a brand new book that is due out in just a few weeks. She has been on the program repeatedly, extremely generous with her time. She's really been a super big help in pushing the program along. If you would like to get more information about how you can get her book, the website, TrojanHorse1.com. Again, it's TrojanHorse1.com. If you are listening at Blog Talk Radio, you can just click the title of the book, and it will take you right to the website. So if you want to get a copy of the book or get more information on the new book, TrojanHorse1.com. And our second guest joining us for the evening, also, he's been with us numerous times. He is the author of How to Support and Defend the United States Constitution for Victims of Racism, White Supremacy. He has tons of real-life experience and suggestions for how to deal with white people, racist suspects on the job, how to prepare for what you are going to encounter, and really just about following the logic so that you don't have to go and run to Mr. Fuller or Dr. Welsing or any other non-white person, so that you can begin to think for yourself and figure out the best thing to do at all times to achieve the best, most constructive result. Real pleasure to have them both on the program with us. From counter-racism.com, Mr. Edward Williams, and we also have co-author of Trojan Horse, Death of a Dark Nation, Pam. Mr. Williams and Pam, are you both on the line with us?
I'm here. Hi, Gus. Hi, Justice. Hi, Mr. Williams.
Hello, Pam. Yes, Gus, I'm here as well. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Real honored to have both of you on the program. Big fan of both of your works. How are the both of you doing this evening?
Well, I'm fine.
As well as can be expected. I know there's a little pause there, and I was waiting for Pam to speak first. Of course, my grandmother could be listening, and if I go first, if I try to speak before a woman, female gets a chance to speak, I might get in trouble. So
I appreciate it.
Dig it. Good to hear from you both. I'm real eager to hear you all, what you have to say on the subject, just in terms of black people. And I think I put that in the description. I think that is racist code. I think white people have invested a lot of time and energy and are extremely scientific in figuring out ways to get non-white people to focus their time and energy on other non-white people. I guess, Pam, you were with us on Wednesday to discuss this matter. If it's okay with you, I will go to Mr. Williams first, since he was not here, to see his thoughts, and then we'll go to you, if that's acceptable.
That is fine. I'm here to learn tonight.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, proceed. My apologies.
Oh, okay. I was on the call for the program as well. Are you referring to the one about President Obama or Mr. Obama?
I was, but you don't necessarily have to. If you have thoughts you would like to share on that, that's fine. But we can kind of begin fresh. We don't even, we can leave that in the past and just begin fresh in terms of black people focusing on other black people, if you would prefer.
Oh, sure. That's not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. And it is, as you say, as you have stated, that basically non-white people have been trained under the system of racism, white supremacy, to focus on each other. I talked a little bit about that in the book, and how it is that we have coined a term or a phrase to kind of explain what's happening, but it's not in any detail. It's a cliche term. White people love cliche terms, and the term that we use, which we may not have even come up with, is called divide and conquer. But really, what's happening when you look at it and try to see what it is that you're looking at is that the smartest, most powerful white people, whoever they are, have trained the non-white people of this planet to be focused on and in conflict with each other. Those are the logical mechanics for what we call divide and conquer. And so that plays out on a daily basis. Sitting here talking about it, I remember something that happened just a few years ago. I was, and this is a small example of what it is that I'm talking about, being focused on and in conflict with each other. There are many, many examples. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. There's some kind of school. I'm not sure if it's a high school or a middle school or what, but it's right across the street from Howard University. And before attending the Welsing Institute, periodically I would go out to that school that's across the street from Howard University and play basketball. And so we were, it was a group of people there that afternoon. It was, sun was setting, very pleasant, maybe around 75 degrees that evening. From this basketball court, you could actually see what people referred to as the Washington Monument. That's the tall building that kind of looks like a Ku Klux Klan member. For those who are not familiar with the structures in Washington, D.C., it has two red blinking lights that appear to be eyes within the structure. So you could actually see that from where we were. Not sure how significant that is. But there's a group of guys that were standing around waiting to play basketball, some of whom were white people and mostly non-white people. I thought it, kind of strange. On that part of Georgia Avenue, I'm not sure if you've ever been to Washington, D.C., but you don't find very many white people on Georgia Avenue. It's that kind of neighborhood. And that is where Howard University is located. So we were standing around talking, and I guess because of the attire I had on, some of the guys asked me if I was Jamaican. And because I generally don't say much, I listen to people, even in the process of playing basketball, I generally don't say a whole lot about anything. And so I looked at the guys and said that no, I'm 100% nigger. And now I don't really suggest that non-white people do that unless you're able to explain exactly what it is that you mean by doing that. Now, when I said that, there was no laughter because I assume, I suspect because there were white people there. And they were standing right next to me when I said that. And so one of the white guys turned around and looked at me and he said, why would you say that? Now, the non-white males, the black males that were standing there, looked directly at me. They didn't look at the white guy. I mean, it was as if he didn't even exist. They looked at me. And so then I began to explain why it is that I said that. But the focal point of that story is how it is that non-white people can use the word nigger around each other and laugh and joke about it and things like that. And And there are a lot of terms in regard to that. People refer to each other as my nigger, as if you could be someone else's. I'm not sure what that means exactly. But there was absolutely no laughter, no smiles, no nothing when I said that in the presence of white people. And the focus, I think, of the non-white people who were there should have been on the white people who were there, but it wasn't. And so after I explained what I meant by that, the focus was still on me. It's almost as if we understand what is being said when that word is being used. And we use the word in playful terms with each other. But when white people are around, there's no more play being in. No one's being playful in reference to that word. No non-white people. Now, even though we're not being playful in reference to the word itself, we are still focused on each other. Even when it is explained in detail, that the reason I'm a nigger is because I'm being mistreated on the basis of color. That's what niggerizes me. Even when it is explained as such, the focus is still not on white people. So the training that non-white people have received under the system of racism and white supremacy keeps us focused on each other all the time. All the time. And even when we decide to change that focus, in many cases, we don't have the words to use, either verbally or in thought, to explain why it is that we are focused on someone other than non-white people, why it is that we're focused on white people. Many of us don't have the language to try to even figure it out within our own minds. And so that's one example of, although it's a bit, elaborate, probably talk too much in trying to explain it. But if you're able to listen to the program again, listen to that part, and I'd be interested in knowing what it is that people think about that one example.
Pam, do you have any thoughts?
I do have. As I was listening, it made perfect sense to me because I've been in that situation where a white person changes the whole dynamic. And I can actually picture exactly what you're saying, and I can even see the faces, how everybody's looking serious, but they're not dealing with that white person that's standing there.
Right.
Let me ask you this: do you think we're afraid to include that white person in that?
I think that may be true, but I mean, you're only afraid of something when you don't know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, you got people who are sticking their heads in the mouths of lions. I'm not sure if they're afraid to do that or not, but they obviously have reached a point where they know what to say and what to do, and know what the result is of what they say and what they're going to do. They know what that result's going to be. And so once you know that, I mean from experience know that, there's really nothing to fear. Non-white people have not reached a point. We've not reached a point where we even understand what language to use. We don't know what to say or what to do. so that we don't have that fear. So I would definitely not rule that out. That I would say, and if you are saying that fear is a part of it, I am 100% in agreement with you. That even though you put it in the form of a question, which is excellent. I am 100% in agreement with you that I do agree that there is some fear involved in that, but I think that is only because we don't know how to handle it. See, I didn't have any fear at all, even in saying that. I could have said that, oh, well, I'm African American, and everybody would have accepted it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wouldn't have been a second thought about it because everybody knows how to handle that. They know how to handle being called African American, even in the presence of white people. No embarrassment. There's no fear about how to respond to anything a white person might say about being African American. Non-white people understand how to handle that. But when I said what I did say, understand, and I knew that I had the language to be able to explain to non-white people and to white people what I mean by saying that. But many non-white people just don't have the language to do that. And they haven't been in enough situations where they have experimented with using language and saw what the result of that would be.
I have another question for you. What do you think do you think that the black males that were there, after you explained it, do you think that they came away with something that they didn't have before, a better understanding?
I think that they may have, maybe not all of them, but I would hope the majority of them, would have understood what I said and what I meant by saying what I said. Now, whether or not they would have remembered how the language was used and remembered the reaction of the people when the language was used the way that it was used, I'm not sure if that was the case. Hope that it was, but there's no way for me to be certain. But it's one thing that I've learned is that logic takes root. Really. When you are, there's no racism, white supremacy class for white people. We say that they pick it up by osmosis, but what's really happening is the logic of their experiences takes root, and they understand, based on the movies they see, the books that they read, how situations are played out in their day-to-day lives, they develop an understanding of how things should be done from their perspective. And so they participate in that based on that understanding. There are not enough situations that take place on a daily basis for non-white people to be involved in that, so much so that we will develop an understanding about how to counter the system of racism, white supremacy. There are some, but not nearly enough. And so we don't develop that counter understanding. because of the lack of the situations, where we can, where that logic, counter-racist logic can actually take root. I mean, you're talking about trying to pull non-white people into a different orbit. Mm-hmm. The system of racism and white supremacy has us pulled into an orbit, where we function around it. And so you're talking about pulling us out of that. And there's just not enough at this day and time. There's not enough situations that where the majority of non-white people can, what the code book describes as a substantial number of non-white people, can be involved in those situations, on a continuous basis, on a constant basis, where we are bombarded, with counter-racist logic. And so hopefully in the future that will increase. I mean, it's increasing already. I mean, we're on a program that didn't exist 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That was a good way that you explained it, because I always wondered, and I was curious about how I know Mr. Fuller describes the white race as an organization. And
right.
When you look at it, even though all white people haven't talked to all white people, they don't have a handbook, they seem to be right in tune. And
yeah.
They seem to know what it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to be. And you can tell because when you talk to them and you say certain things or do certain things, they try to hide it, but you know that they know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They don't try to stop it.
Right.
And that was one of the things that I read in your book about, you either for it or against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't benefit. I think the thing was, it was axiom. You can't oppose something and benefit from it at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that axiom number 2? I believe it is.
I think it's number 2 or number 1.
Okay.
I gotta reread it. But yeah,
Very, very interesting part of the book. Non-white people should study that. I mean, not just read. They should study that.
I just want to say it for the record. If you, Gus, or anybody sees something incorrect in the book or have an opinion, please share it with us, because the last thing we want to do is create more confusion. And when the book was being created, I was more confused then than I am now. So it's possible that some serious mistakes were made in the book. And so anybody who wants to share something, please do, because, we need help too.
Right.
So, that's to anybody, especially you codified people, because I'm still working on it. I'm telling you, it just goes against, it's like it's telling me stuff that makes sense, but I'm like, stop gossiping? Come on. So I'm still working on it.
Yeah. You'll find there'll be a whole lot of silence. Mm-hmm. You have lots of time to think.
Right.
Right. I used to run a. I'm not sure if you ever heard of Pal Talk. Have you ever heard of Pal Talk?
No, I haven't.
It's like a chat room kind of application where you can start your own chat rooms and go to other people's chat rooms and whatnot. Well, I had a chat room that I had set up. This was I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. And the name of that chat room was Helping to Solve Problems. That was the name of it. Now, there was only 2 things you could do in that chat room. And it was an audio enabled chat room where people could, raise their hand and come up to the mic and say something on the mic. You see the number of people who were in line waiting to talk on the mic and things like that. So the two things that you could do in that chat room is, number one, you can come to the mic and state a problem that you're having. Or, number two, you can come to the mic and offer a constructive suggestion to a problem that someone else had already stated. Those are the only two things you could do on that mic. Now, there were times where the room was packed. It was packed with people. I'm talking about 50-plus people in a chat room. And for more than 10 minutes, nobody was saying nothing. It was just silence. Now, some people would come up and say, oh, well, what kind of problem can I state on the mic? Well, you state a problem, any problem that you're having. You can state that you're having a problem with your manicurist. It doesn't matter. Whatever problem you're having, it does not matter. Just come on up here. There are enough people in here to offer you some constructive suggestions. And of course you couldn't say anything about another suggestion that somebody else had already suggested. You couldn't come up to the mic and say, man, that's a crazy suggestion. I don't even know why you suggested it. No, none of that. All that was outlawed. Either state a problem or offer a constructive suggestion. And when we are placed into that kind of thinking, that mode of thinking, you're talking about silence. It's just silence. Nobody would say anything. Every now and then you'd get somebody to come up to the mic and state a problem that they were having, or somebody to offer a constructive suggestion. Every now and then. But, no gossiping. No name calling. No, none of that. And so you have lots of time. That's what I meant when I said earlier about lots of time to think. Or you have lots of time to think. Now imagine 80 people, 80 non-white people sitting around thinking about solving problems in a chat room on the internet.
Is it that they didn't know what to say?
I don't know. I don't know.
Or they felt that, okay, all right.
Now, see, we all have problems.
Right.
We all have. It could have been that, some of them were too embarrassed to talk about any problem that they had. That could have been the case. I don't know. I wasn't allowed to ask people why they were not saying anything. You just have to wait for somebody to do some talking after they have done some thinking.
Okay.
And so, you can draw conclusions as to what's going on and whatnot, but just looking at it, looking at what's happening, it's amazing. You read those things in the code book, like the 10 stops. You read that and say, yeah, well, I really don't do a whole lot of gossiping. I don't, I try to minimize my name calling. I, don't really like to cuss people out. I don't do this, don't do that. Okay, well, when you're not doing all those things, what are you doing?
It's like relearning. It's like unlearning and relearning. You're unlearning the way of communicating, which is just running your mouth, not thinking, name calling, gossiping, whatever it is. And now somebody's asking you to be serious. And am I allowed to be serious? I'm allowed to be angry, but am I allowed to take myself seriously? Am I allowed to be a serious, intelligent person? Because that's not what we see every day in the imagery that we get. We don't see that. We just see black people as a clown and arguing, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say, to non-white people who say that what we need to do, since we have all these black people who are not serious and clowning, what we need to do is to roll up our sleeves and get at these non-white people. That's the problem. There's no accountability, and, we should go out and serve notice. If you're going to act crazy and be a detriment to non-white people under white supremacy, we're going to roll up our sleeves and deal with you. What's incorrect about taking that approach?
Pam, did you want to?
No, I'll let you tackle that one. Because I already, anyway, go ahead. Yeah, I'm listening.
I would say that, non-white people are the person who says that, the non-white person who says that is qualified to make that assessment, first and foremost. And I think it's important to lead with that statement. Not only because that's counter-racism code, but because that helps non-white people to understand what it means in our communication with each other, how to minimize conflict with each other. I think that's extremely important for non-white people to understand that. I mean, especially if the person that's standing right next to me is saying that. And they bigger and stronger than me. It becomes extremely important to lead with that statement. That person is qualified to make that assessment all on their own, because ultimately, whatever it is that person does, whatever it is that any non-white person does, they have to live with that. Whatever it is that they say, they have to live with that. So my first statement is that person is qualified to make that assessment. They owe it to themselves to figure out how the system works and figure out what it is that they need to say and do in response to how the system works. Now, usually I'll leave it at that unless someone asks me an additional question about that. See, I mean, you really can't go nowhere else with it. Really. I mean, anything that you say about the person who said that, anything that a non-white person says about the non-white person who said that, you end up talking about that non-white person, and maybe doing so in such a manner that causes conflict. I mean, you really have to be tuned in as to what it means to minimize conflict by maximizing constructive interaction. You really got to be tuned in to exactly what that means. And so you don't want to say anything that could cause conflict with that person. There are many other non-white people who might try to egg it on. They'll try to, hey, did you hear what that person said? that person said such and such. What do you think about that? See, we've been trained to do that. White people will do that too, to try to keep the conflict going between white people. And so my response to that question would be, yes, I heard what the person said. And I think my thoughts on it is the person said what they said. Now, see, I've been in that situation before. That's happened more than one occasion. And so the person said, well, what do you mean? The person said, I know the person said what they said. What do you think about what the person said? And I said, well, what I think is that the person said what they said. Now, there's a couple of things that's going on, one of which is I'm not participating in causing conflict between non-white people when I use that strategy. The second thing that's going on is I'm keeping the person that's talking to me from participating in causing conflict between non-white people. See, they're going to have to go find another non-white person and ask them what they think in order to keep the conflict going. So not only am I refusing to keep the conflict going, just by saying the person said what they said, I'm keeping that person that's trying to egg it on, whether that person be a white person or a non-white person, I'm keeping that person from keeping the conflict going while they're talking to me. So, Gus, in answer to your question, that was really a roundabout, way of answering the question. What I think about a person that says that is that, number one, they qualified to say that. And number two, they said what they said.
Okay. I would tell folks to pay attention to words. I didn't ask you what you thought about the person. I said, do you think there's anything constructive to taking the position of going at other non-white people and saying that the problem is that we're not holding non-white people accountable? President Obama, for example. Problem is we are not holding President Obama accountable. He's doing all this rotten stuff, and, just because he is not white, we got our kid gloves on, and, we need to just tell the truth and say what Obama is doing wrong. And, in fact, we should even try to organize and get rid of him. That's the problem. Us not doing that, us not taking a tougher stance with these non-white people and calling them out for doing the incorrect thing. Do you see a constructive value to taking that position under the system of white supremacy?
Do I see a constructive value in taking the position of trying to get rid of Mr. Obama?
Or any other non-white people who are doing non-constructive things?
Oh, well, my answer to that is I don't know. I mean, did the person say something that is non-constructive?
Yes. We've got non-white people who are saying non-constructive things and doing non-constructive things. Yes.
Okay, what did the person say that was non-constructive?
Let's see. So many things. Pam, give me one thing President Obama said that was not constructive. Oh, I got one. He went to the NAACP and he told them that they could do anything, that there are no excuses. Stop blaming people for your problems. Get out there and make it happen. And that's not true because we're in a system of white supremacy, And you do have people who are doing incorrect things. So he didn't tell them. He told them something that was not true. That's not constructive because it's not true.
Okay.
So we should get at him.
You answered my question.
Okay.
That's
so
how
he's doing things. So let's go back. So he's doing things that are not constructive. So we should be getting at him, don't you think? Don't you think that would be constructive for us to organize and try and deal with President Obama and other non-white people who are doing or saying non-constructive things?
Well, I take the position that each individual non-white person is qualified to make that assessment all on their own. That's the position that I take. And so that means that the person who is saying that another non-white person is doing and saying things that are not constructive, they are included in that. They are qualified to make that assessment. Now, what does that do? What does that do? What is the logic of what that does? You know, that minimizes conflict between me and the person that's talking.
Is there any good time to have conflict?
Between non-white people, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or any conflict between non-white people under the system of racism, white supremacy just keeps the conflict. That just helps to keep the system going.
Okay.
Yeah, that just, there's no way around it. I mean, you can kill somebody who is trying to kill you. You know what I mean? And I mean that's helpful to you if you're trying to stay alive. You know, but that keeps the system going too.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I mean, each individual non-white person has to decide for themselves at a time and place of their own choosing what it is that they need to say and what it is that they need to do. I mean, if you when you try to move away from that, you're gonna get a bunch of confusion and a bunch of conflict. Anytime you try to move away from that, because I've heard now white people that will say, well, you know, we all need to be on the same page, and I'll ask, okay, well, what does that mean? We all need to be on the same page. Well, all non-white people need to be saying and doing the same things. Oh, okay, well, what does that mean? And I can never really get anybody to explain in detail what it is that they're talking about. Now, I suspect that I know what it is that they're talking about. I mean, that we need to be unified in our approach to replace the system of racism, white supremacy with a system of justice. I think that's what they're trying to get at, but they don't really have the language to say it. And I said, well, you know, we all need to be together. And, you know, we will use, you know, different words, different phrases in order to try to explain what it is that we mean. And that's just talking about unity. I mean, when you go into detail talking about unity, I mean, you're really talking about people following a code. You know, I mean, you're not really talking about we all need to be standing on the corner of 5th and Elm with a sign that says "No justice, no peace." You know what I mean? You're not really talking about that in terms of being together. You're talking about how it is that non-white people need to respond in terms of how to handle replacing white supremacy with justice. You know, not all the electricians on the planet, you know, need to be standing on the corner of 5th and Elm. Because they have a code. They don't have to do that. They all know what to do. They all know how to handle 220 volts. Because they have an electrical code.
Okay.
So they are unified in terms of how to handle 220 volts, no matter where they are on the planet. Because they follow that code. All the white people don't need to get together in a classroom and teach each other how to mistreat people on the basis of color. They got a handshake deal on doing that worldwide. But they don't all need to be in the same place at the same time doing the same thing in order to be together in terms of mistreating people on the basis of color, because they have a code. They have a racist code. And so they know how to handle people who are non-white. They know what to say to them, what not to say, what to do, what not to do. But when it comes to non-white people, we are confused. We're in a confused state in terms of being together. You know, we have a lot of elaborate so-called organizations, and we have meetings, multi-million-dollar meetings, that take a lot of time and energy. And still don't produce the result that we're looking for. We can never get to that unity part. But it's all in how we understand how to unify. And you unify around a code. So no matter where you are on the planet, you'll know what to say and you'll know what to do.
So a big step then to not opposing, but just overturning or defeating or eliminating white supremacy would be to encourage everyone to get codified, to learn the code, the same code.
Or I would suggest that they begin to, non-white people begin to codify themselves as individuals.
But not necessarily the same code?
Yeah, I mean, if they start walking that path, they'll get there. If we start walking the path, see, counter-racism is a lot about self-improvement. Now, a lot of non-white people don't want to hear that, but it is. I mean, the reason the system is still in full effect is not only because of what white people are doing against us, it's also because of what we are not doing. against them and against the system as a whole. If we could just start walking the path of codifying as individuals, it's just sitting down thinking about what is the best thing to say under these circumstances, what is the best thing to do under these circumstances, where I can improve as an individual and at the same time work against the system of racism, white supremacy. We could just walk that path.
I guess I thought you were referring to the codification that's in Mr. Fuller's book, because I wonder if people, and I'm not trying to downplay anybody's intelligence, but I wonder if all these different people can come up and codify on their own when they don't have a foundation of codification at all. I think it would be very difficult for me to do. I think I would need a lot of help in terms of having some blueprint or some kind of, something to start with.
Right. And I'm not discounting Mr. Fuller's book at all. Mm-hmm. Not in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. I mean, people should seek to find the help that they need, the constructive help that they need, no matter what they are doing. And Mr. Fuller's book is an excellent start. It's an excellent start. But, I mean, you have to get people to the point of being able to stand on their own 2 feet and soldier for themselves. People are going to have to be able to get to that point. I think, Gus, did you talk about that earlier in the program, about not having to go back to Mr. Fuller or Dr. Wilson or anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, being able to do it all on your own. I mean, that's really where you want people to be.
Yeah, eventually.
Oh yeah, I mean, once you have a good understanding of counter-racist code and how it works, really, I mean, following the logic, not following Mr. Fuller. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, what you gonna do in 30 years? Because Mr. Fuller is in his 70s or 80s right now. Mm-hmm. What are you gonna do with somebody that's 10 years old right now? Right. You're not gonna be able to pick up the phone and call Mr. Fuller. So you want to be able to get people to the point of being able to do it all on their own. See, an electrician on the top of Mount Everest knows what to do. The same as an electrician in San Diego, California. If they're both following an electrical code, they know how not to be harmed by electricity, what to do, what to say. And the reason they know that is because of the code itself. We see each other on a daily basis, interacting with each other and whatnot. Once non-white people start codifying themselves, then the people who are counting us and watching us, even though we may not see a marked improvement in the people that we interact with on a daily basis, they will see that there is something going on statistics on everything that's going on. How many people are murdered, when they are murdered, where are they murdered, who is murdering who. I mean, when those things drop, even though the number of police officers in that area are cut in half. Now, see, the people that we talk to, the people that you talk to on a daily basis, may not be murderers. See, they are watching the whole spectrum. They will understand that there's something going on, that these people are unified.
Like we got a lot of work to do.
And well, it starts with us working on ourselves as individuals, you know, and us figuring out what is the best way to interact with each other. That's where it starts. I mean, we can make the assessment that we're not going to do nothing until everybody else gets on board. We can make that assessment, or we can say, well, I'm not waiting on everybody else. I'm going to get started right now. And the changes in behavior, even the smallest change in behavior, is a cumulative effect against the system. And racist man and racist woman are going to know that because they are keeping track.
You can just see them tweaking it, especially when it comes to the media and entertainment. I mean, they're just it's almost like bombing an area. They're just bombing, sending bombs out, psychological bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Just slaughtering people. But we can, you know, we still have an obligation to fight. We still have an obligation to resist. And if they weren't concerned about our ability to resist, they wouldn't work so hard to stop. This is the way I think, anyway. If we were no threat whatsoever, they would not spend as much time and energy and effort in making sure that we can't unify or we can't get ourselves together. They won't let up. Why are they putting all this energy forth if we don't have the potential? That's just the way I have to see it.
Mm-hmm. And you qualified to make that assessment. See, that's the way it works.
Well, this is easy.
you went from. You went from we got a lot of work to do to 5 minutes later saying this is easy. That's how it works.
Oh man, I wish it wasn't easy. But we're gonna be here anyway. We might as well make useful, constructive use of our time because we're gonna be here anyway. And the way it's going now, a lot of us are not happy. So, seriously, I mean, what else should we be doing? We're not going to be happy with this foot on our neck and it getting heavier. So, might as well try to get it off.
Oh, yeah, it's going to get worse.
That's right. You ain't going to be happy just doing nothing, believe me. You're going to be doing something. You're just not going to be doing what is in your best interest. You'll be doing something.
Mm-hmm. Gus, you still there?
Yes, sir. guess, Pam, you said you did some thinking after the program. Your stance on President Obama. Did you change things up, or how have you changed things since the last broadcast?
It's like I got religion. It's just really been a big change in terms of, the conversations I was having prior to these shows. I mean, just not too long ago, maybe a couple of days before the show, I was, and I was doing what I pretty much admitted I was doing. I was ragging on Obama, got a pleasure out of it. Me and a couple other black people at my job, one person in particular, calls him the Antichrist and everything, and we're just really going off. And he said something to me yesterday, going on that same thing, and I stopped him cold. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm not going to have a conversation with you. Obama's not the problem. The white people behind him are the problem. The white people are the problem. And I said, I'm not going to keep ragging on him because I need to focus on the real problem. So he looked at me really funny. And he seemed like he was almost going to get irritated. And then I kind of cut the conversation short because I said, I'm not going to stand here and argue with him, about it. So make a long story short, I told him why. And I told him that, that I got to start focusing on the real problem. And that's what I'm going to do. So he kind of chilled out, and he didn't talk about him today because he talks about him every day. And then I had another conversation with another guy at work, and he was talking about the people, some at work, and he said, niggas, right? And I said, you know what? I said, you saying niggas, but black people are not the problem. White people are the problem. And so we had that conversation real briefly, and then he said, yeah, I know you're right. White people are the problem. So I'm kind of like trying to retrain myself by not having those same conversations, because I was really taking the easy way out. I was taking the pro, I was just like a robot, and I tell you honestly and truly, I feel better. I feel better now. I don't know. I can't explain why. I don't know exactly why, but I feel like I did. Like I made some progress. That's how I feel.
Do you feel like you might be letting someone off the hook who is maybe a detriment to the victims of white supremacy?
Nope. I feel like I'm not focusing on the wrong people anymore. I feel, I feel, I don't feel like I'm letting Obama off the hook. I'm not a supporter of his, but he's not the real problem. So I do honestly feel a little clearer headed because it was all emotion, and I don't feel as emotional, about Obama anymore. And I just don't want to play the blame game anymore. And, I'm going to play it, of course. I'm going to flip up, but I'm going to try not to make that, even when it comes to relationships, the blame game, black men on black women on black men, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. Nobody gets anywhere. Everybody's mad. Everybody's, ranted, and what have we accomplished? Nothing, because black men are not the problem. Black women are not the problem. The only people I was letting off the hook were white people, and I'm going to try my best to stop doing that. Stop blaming black people for being victims. No, I'm not letting Obama off the hook. I don't feel I am at all.
Either one of you, do you all have observations, I guess, when you are in conversations and you attempt to try not to focus on non-white people, how other non-white people that you're talking to, how they respond to that?
Sam, did you want to tackle that question?
Oh, no, you go ahead. I'm thinking about
and, well, this may be sort of a general response, because really it depends on the kind of conversation that non-white people are used to having around each other. The kind of non-white people that I'm around and what we talk about may not be the same as Pam or some of the listeners that are on the program. But generally speaking, we don't. Many non-white people we don't break training. We just don't break training. I mean, that training that we get as being victims of racism, white supremacy, not victims for the sake of being victims, but victims of being mistreated on a basis of color. The training that we get as a result of that is to focus on each other and talk about each other and cuss each other out. Hang up the phone, call back in 20 minutes and cuss each other out again. I mean, that's the training that we get. I mean, many of us think that is normal, that is the way that people should interact with each other. And I'm not just talking about the non-white people in the place that's called the United States. I mean, I've done some traveling around the planet, and when it comes to solving problems, it's extremely difficult. Unfortunately, I mean, it's really tragic. Extremely difficult to get non-white people to solve problems without a whole bunch of conflict. I mean, that's difficult to do. And the white people know that it's difficult for us to do. They know that because they've trained us to do it. The white people who practice racism, white supremacy have trained us to do that. I think during the time that the Matrix movies were coming, I think was it the second one or the third one? I don't remember either the second one or the third one. Non-white people were talking about the contrast between how Neo and Trinity interacted with each other versus Morpheus and I can't remember her name.
Jada Pinkett Smith's character?
Yes. Even when she was piloting the ship and he was helping her, he was navigating her, how it is that they, raise their voice at each other and things like that. And, I mean, just the things that we get from watching a movie in terms of how the characters interact with each other, white versus non-white. We may not be cognizant of what's happening while it's happening, but we are watching it, and that logic takes root. It takes root, and next thing you know, we're interacting with each other the same way. So I mean, it's critical for us to be critical about what it is that we see in terms of understanding what we're looking at. That is absolutely critical.
Yeah, the movies are like Gus, when you had the show on Sanford and Sons. It just. I knew I didn't like Sanford and Sons. I just didn't know what. I couldn't have pinpointed what. I just might have called it buffoonery, but I wasn't really aware of how much programming and training was in that one little sitcom, half-an-hour sitcom. And in my city, it comes on every day. Maybe once. I'm not sure if it comes on more than once, but every day it comes on. They've got a handful of black shows, and all of them are buffooneries. Buffoon coms or whatever you want to call them, from Tyler Perry to Sanford and Sons, Good Times, So they just got them running back to back. So if a black person wants to watch any black people on TV and they don't want to watch BET or a reality show, that's pretty much it. And I know a lot of black people, over the age of 40 who love Sanford and Sons. Even bought the one guy at work told me he bought the. Hello.
I can hear you.
Okay, he said he bought the set.
Oh.
Yeah, so I just told him you need to throw that away. Don't let your kids.
I watched. Well, I didn't really watch it, but I saw it. I saw it on television. I saw Happy Days. Was on the television when I was sitting in the airport in Durban, South Africa. So I mean, those same images are pumped around the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just here. I mean, they are sent everywhere.
Yeah. There's a big virus circling the planet. Do you think another reason that we blame it's so easy for us to blame other black people is it's safer?
What do you mean safer?
Well, if we get mad at white people, or we confront white people, there's possible penalties involved. But if we criticize black people, even if it's in a nonviolent way, or confront black people, pretty much if we do it, if we have any public exposure, we get rewarded for it. It also shows that we're safe. And I just mean safer in that there are no real consequences, at least no consequences that most of us recognize. There are consequences, but not ones that we actually recognize. And there's no danger,
Right. From that in that regard, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Depending on the circumstances, of course, but generally speaking, yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I've even had situations where white people have egged me on, wanted me to say something. Like I remember when I was trying to get a mortgage a long time ago, first house, and this white guy was the realtor or this real estate agent, and he basically said out of the blue, he said, yeah, you're going to have to buy a house, something to the effect that I was going to have to take care of myself because I knew black men, black men not going to do it. And I just looked at him, and I'm like, he wanted me to see. I was still pretty young, and I was, kind of like, wasn't outspoken. But I just looked at him kind of funny, but I really didn't know what to say. And I remember thinking he wanted me to say something. But I didn't buy into it, but I also didn't defend myself either. Because
what do you think he wanted you to say?
He wanted me to agree with him.
And what do you think would have happened? What do you think would have happened as a result of that?
Had I agreed with him?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but maybe he would have said something else. Maybe he would have built on it. And then it turned out he was trying to cheat me.
He was trying to cheat you?
Well, he was trying to steer me to some financial person. And luckily, I had at least enough sense to go to get my own loan, because I was certain, you know, after when he was trying to steer me, he seemed pretty kind of annoyed that I wasn't going to do it. So I said, yeah, he's trying to cheat me. But who knows? Maybe he would have made a pass at me. Who knows?
See that I have watched that happen. I have watched that happen. I mean, in person, you know, and non-white males and females fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. I say, here it comes. They don't know it yet, but here it comes. That person is making a pass at them. They don't know it. Here it comes.
I sure didn't know it.
And I have watched it. I have sit and watched it and listened. And, yeah, when white males are degrading black males to black women, or white females, you know, you know, are degrading black females to black men, here it comes. Here it comes.
Wow.
It's leading up to that. They just trying to see where your mind is. It's leading up to that. I've watched it happen too many times.
Wow. And you know, that didn't even occur to me until now. You know, back then I just assumed that he was. I don't know what I thought. I just thought he was that then I thought he was just a prejudiced white man. But it never occurred to me that he was setting the stage for anything else. I just didn't. And that's the tragedy of it, is when we're young, there's nobody telling us anything. It's like every black generation has to go out there and get their heads bumped and sometimes their skull cracked, because those of us who have experienced things, we're not telling our kids and we're not telling young people anything. We're keeping white people's secrets, basically.
Yeah.
And so when you're young, and you, especially as a woman, and I can't speak for men, but as a woman, my God, the things, the self-esteem issues that you struggle with, and anybody pays you any attention, and people just trying to sexually use you, particularly white males. I could tell you so many stories of so many what you would call disrespectful moments. Just disrespect out there, you know, and you don't really have any defenses because you've been taught that white people are, it depends on the family and where you are. You've been taught that white people are the people to please. They're the people that you should be trying to get to validate you, and yet they're mistreating you. What a trick bag.
Yeah.
So we got to do a better job of, in my opinion, of helping the young people. They should not have to learn everything from scratch. Yeah.
They both do it. White males and white females, they both do it. But the white females are a lot more sophisticated. Yeah, they are in terms of how they do it. I mean, someone made the comment once before that you see a whole lot more black males with white females than you see black females with white males. But I attribute that to the sophistication that white females use in hooking the black males. They are way more sophisticated than white males in terms of doing that. I mean, a white male basically has to impose, you know, his sexual prowess. But since the female can't impose, you know, they are way more sophisticated at enticing the male. Males just not that sophisticated in terms of enticing females. I mean, we just not. I mean, we are not. The the females are really in control of that sexual thing. I mean, when it comes to enticing the other party, I mean, males just don't do a good job of that. And so I've had white females to approach me talking about black females.
Mhm. I've had quite a few men tell me that.
Oh yeah. I mean,
talk about us like a dog.
I knew where. Say again.
They talk about us like a dog.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And I knew where it was going.
Mhm.
You know, I knew where it was going, and so I'm sitting there or I'm standing there and I'm listening to them. And they laying out the whole plan. See, women have to be such and such a, And when they get finished, I said, well, that does happen. What you described does happen, but that's only because black females are mistreated on the basis of color by white people. Then you get this funny look.
I wish I could be there.
You get this funny look. I say, well, black females are just not as sophisticated as white females in terms of getting what they want, because black females have been niggerized under this system. We've been held back, retarded.
Do you think it's also due to the part that black males as well as black females have been taught to please white females? So is it their sophistication, or is it our unsophistication, lack of sophistication, that makes their job easier?
It's both. Mm-hmm. There's no way to separate the two. Right. If it even is two, Mm-hmm. I think it's the same thing. I mean, that's unfortunately it is a tragic arrangement. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got a lot of work to do, just like you say, but it's easy work when you understand what you're looking at. It's easy work.
One thing I found too is, and this is just my opinion, maybe you two being men and me not, maybe you can tell me what you think, is I put it this way. I think that black men don't take white women as seriously. They don't see them as a threat. Their defenses are down, and they don't feel demeaned if a white female seduces them. They feel lucky, as in his sex. I'm just saying that men don't. I don't know if men feel demeaned by sex like women are more. We're more sensitive to the fact of being sexually used, whereas men would say sometimes that being used is not a problem. So I wonder if that makes it easier for the white female to do it versus the white male. Because the white male has a history of rape and sexual degradation of black females, which makes black females, even if they're not, doesn't have the defenses, it makes them a little more leery. Whereas a black male, he's not worried about a white female degrading him sexually.
Yeah, that could be absolutely true. I've personally never had sex, had any kind of sexual intercourse with a white female. Mm-hmm. So what I think about that, as you've laid it out, mm-hmm. May not be as important as what a non-white male who has had sexual intercourse with a white female, mm-hmm. Actually haven't had that experience. They may have, a lot more information to provide mm-hmm. on that subject. But just in terms of how people interact with each other under the system of racism, white supremacy, that could be absolutely true. Just as you've laid it out, it could be absolutely true. Yeah. So I certainly wouldn't disagree with it. I've heard non-white males actually talk about the white females that they've been with and how it made them feel to be with them. You know, and what they have explained is just as you have explained. Now, I've had them try, you know. But I never got involved in that. Now, this girl was looking at me in the restaurant today. You see what I mean? Went to a Chinese restaurant. That's what they call it. Chinese food. What do you mean Chinese food? Food is food. It all comes from the earth. But that's what that's what we call it, Chinese food. Went to a Chinese restaurant. It was like a buffet, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching. It was a basketball game on television while I was eating, and you know, just kind of look around. Periodically, I look around. I think it's just something that's left over from my younger days, what I used to call casing the joint. You know, just gotta look around, see what's going on, you know. And I noticed that this lady was watching, the white lady. And she appeared to be pretty young. But, you know, just took note of that as I took note of other things that were going on around me. And so I, you know, went up to get some food and whatnot, and I noticed that when I got up, she got up. See? And would come around to where I was located, in which case I would move around to the other side, and she'd come around to that side. Now, all of that could have been purely coincidental. Yeah. You know, but knowing how things work under the system of racism, white supremacy, you know, it gives you what Dr. Wilson says. Dr. Wilson says people have said that she is paranoid, and she says that just means that she's aware of how the system works. You know, so you have a certain amount of suspicion or insight even into how things play themselves out. Now, she never did say anything, but she was looking and appeared to be following me and whatnot, and I just went on about my business and, you know, finished my meal and left. But, I mean, those kind of things happen all the time to non-white females as well, a whole lot. I hear about it when I'm talking to other non-white females. I mean, they talk about, you know, things like that a lot, and you know, don't know what to say when they're in those situations and or what to do.
Yeah.
But like when I was talking to the lady who was, you know, talking against black females, I wasn't impolite. You know, I was courteous. I wasn't trying to cut her off. You know, trying to interrupt her when she was speaking or anything like that. I mean, she laid out her bit, and I responded to it. I tell you, that conversation didn't last 5 minutes. Before she'll have to move on to another non-white male.
Yep. Heard that same thing from other black males, and I've experienced it myself as a non-white female. And well, it's not a compliment. That's the only thing I can say to anybody that's being talked to like that. That is not a compliment. Do not think for 1 minute it's a compliment to you because they're talking about another non-white person. It is the same thing as if they were talking about you. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll go so far as to saying, hey, you know, we need more black people like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that one.
Oh yeah, they'll take it. They'll take it out that, you know, if they need to take it out that far, they'll take it out that far.
Stroke that ego.
Yeah. Anything to make you feel good about them talking to you. Yeah.
And certainly putting down your own people while they're doing it, and getting you to agree with them.
Oh yeah.
It's really sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And many times we fall for it because we don't have the language to, you know, to counter it.
Mm-hmm.
And we will, you know, in our effort to counter it, we'll end up being discourteous or, you know, cuss the person out or something like that. And you know, there's really no need for that. Once you understand what to say and how to say it, you can just say it. And you don't have to scream it. You know, you can talk it just like this. And let the words do the work for you. You don't have to put a whole lot of energy behind it and contract all the muscles in your body. You know, no, let the words do the work for you. Just put them out there and let them do the work.
What would it be if we were codified?
Well, I think we're moving into that direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, many people are doing many non-white people are doing a lot of thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And the evidence is that they're participating in attempting to understand the language to do that. On programs such as this, such as the C.O.W.S program that Gus has, and other programs. They're talking on websites, in chat rooms, writing books about it, reading books about it. I mean, according to the evidence, we are moving into that direction. And the white people who practice racism, white supremacy, are watching us.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to figure out where we are going to take it.
Mm-hmm. I hope we take it to black is beautiful.
Say again?
Nothing. That's just a thought I had.
This is supposed to be Black History Month. See, when we start talking about that, they may have gotten alarmed initially and say, well, you know, where are they trying to take this? Where are they going with all of this? All of their studies into things that have happened to non-white people in the past. Are they trying to study in an effort not to make the same mistakes that non-white people made 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago? What are they trying to do? They watched us. They listened attentively and watched in a scientific manner. Where are they taking this? Oh, they just want to talk about it and show off to each other how much they know about it. Oh, hell, we'll help them do that. Yeah, you know. So if they figure out, if they suspect that that's where we're going with all this counter-racism stuff, and all we want to do is talk about it and show off to each other how much we think we know about it, they'll jump right in and help us do that. I mean, you got white people that are jumping right in and trying to help us do that anyway. Because, see, that has been our pattern in the past. And so they're trying to steer it down that direction.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. I didn't want to interrupt. The folks did, Mr. Williams, I know earlier, I guess you were going to, I don't know if you were going to share a thought or any of your views on what you heard with the program we did on President Obama. I want to check if you did want to share anything about what you heard on that program. If you did want to share, feel free.
I appreciate you reminding me of that. No, sir, I didn't have anything to share in reference to that. Other than there were some non-white people who were strictly opposed to Mr. Obama holding the presidential office. I had some discussions with some non-white people about that. And
they oppose him holding the office, you said?
Oh, yeah, and this was prior to him being elected.
Okay.
I just attempted to try to help non-white people understand that, under the system of racism, white supremacy, all non-white people are going along with the system. There's no way not to support it. Because non-white people were saying, well, electing him is just like electing a white person, and they're qualified to make that assessment. But those are the kind of conversations that were being brought up at that time, and this was back in 2007, I believe it was, and so. Me and that non-white person at that particular time that were having that conversation, and there were multiple non-white people, but this one in particular, I just tried to help to remind them that, me and you sitting here talking about producing justice, even in doing that, we are going along with the system because we're part of it. Two slaves on a slave plantation sitting there talking about tearing the slave plantation down. After having worked all day, picking cotton, or doing whatever else, and they sitting in a slave shack on a slave plantation talking about getting rid of the plantation. They are still slaves. And so, whatever it is that, whatever kind of status that a non-white person is given by a white person, that non-white person is still subject to the system of racism, white supremacy, whether they are given the status of police chief, mayor, governor, attorney general. Those non-white people are still subject to the system of racism, white supremacy. And so you got to get rid of the system. So thinking about, talking about, and doing things to get rid of the system is what I think non-white people should be doing. But you got to keep in mind, really, a prisoner that's in a prison, even though that prisoner is trying to get out of that prison, they are still supporting the prison just by being a prisoner. So you have to keep that in mind. You can't start throwing rocks at other prisoners. You just don't, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. You're talking about insanity. It doesn't make sense at all. And so those were the kind of conversations that I was having at that time with non-white people who were, they were really talking about him bad. They were really talking about him bad. And I would listen. And then I'd just lay out the logic of why it is that me sitting with them talking about another non-white person is not going to help solve the problem. And so, they had to go find another non-white person too. Yeah, and that's the way it's going to work. But, the more non-white people you have laying out the logic, counter-racist logic, the fewer non-white people they will be able to find, to have those kind of conversations with. So I did. I was on the program. I called into the program and listened attentively. But I wasn't, interested in making any comments either for or against another slave on the slave plantation who really has the same status that I have. But I hope that other non-white people got that from that program. It was an excellent program, especially in terms of understanding how non-white people should be interacting with each other in order to get rid of this system.
I know it helped me a lot. It really. Actually, it's giving me more incentive to study the code too, so that I can help other people develop. Whether I've managed to develop, personalize a code or something. At least I can try to help encourage other people to have a more. I'll put it this way: I feel calmer. I just feel like I thinking clear, without so much emotion, just all over the place. So this has really helped me a tremendous amount. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I just heard a lot of static. I wasn't sure if I got cut off or not.
Oh, I'm not sure what that was. Usually when I'm not talking, I'll just I'll put the mic on, or mute the mic, just to be sure that sound quality for the program is maintained. So I didn't hear the static on this end. Yeah, keeping non-white people away from gossiping and name calling each other. That's really difficult to do.
I don't think we understand how destructive it is.
Yeah.
Because I didn't when I was doing it.
Yeah, once you understand how the system works, and it's one of the things that I put in the book. I mean, it should be laid out, although many people don't do it. I mean, on many occasions I don't. I try to stay focused enough to do it, but it should be laid out as how the system of racism, white supremacy works. That's number one. Number two is the effect that has on non-white people. And number three is what it is that non-white people should say and do in order to work against the system. See, once it's laid out in those 3 points, then non-white people will be able to get a picture of the logic, how it works, how racist logic works, what the effect is, and how counter-racist logic works and what the effect is. And just have them, follow the logic. Lay out the logic and have them follow the logic.
Gus? Gus, are you there?
I'm not sure if you maybe you stepped away for a moment.
Okay. I was just wondering if we had, we were going to talk about black folks blaming black folks, and I wasn't sure if other things.
Did you have something else to say in regard to that?
Not really. I just wasn't sure if there was something specific that Gus wanted to mention about the blame.
I'll answer that. I wanted to make sure I got the people that called in that have questions I wanted to make sure I got them on so they can, get their question in if they would like to, and then I will pick that up to answer that question. The people that called in, if you all have a question, I can get you on to ask your question. Just press 1 and I can open your line up. The people that have already called in, 8162-8431, and the person that called in from a block number, your lines are open. The people that called in, if you have a question you would like to ask, if you could just hold the background noise down, that would be super helpful. The people that called in already, that's 8162-8431, and the person that called in from a block number, all of you all, your lines are open. Guess we could start 8162. Mr. Nero, your line is open as well. And Non-Mighty Wick, got your line as well. Anybody else, press 1 and I can get you. If any of the folks that called in already that have a hand up, if you have a question, your line is open, go right ahead. Any of the people that called in who had a hand up, did anyone have a question?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. You guys said 8 something. Go ahead and speak. Anyway, greetings, Pam and Mr. Williams.
Hello.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when you said that, you were having a conversation with the male at your work, that you wasn't going to engage in that type of dialogue with him anymore or whatnot. I just thought that was pretty cool. Just to hear you say that. I mean, yeah. I think Mr. Nero probably would agree with me. That was pretty sexy, to be honest. I mean, that's just how I felt when I heard you say that. I mean, it was just mad mature. It was just totally responsible. It was just everything. That's just like exactly what you want to hear from somebody that got some information. It was just perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. And I felt good about it too. And the second man I talked to, and he was talking about niggas. I could see it in his face. It was almost like it hit him, kind of the way it hit me. And he said, he says, you're right. It's white people. And that made me feel good. And I know that it's like we're validating each other. That's the way I felt.
Pam, this is Mr. Nero.
Hello, Mr. Nero.
Greetings to everyone. Unfortunately, I'm a little tied up. Pam, have you seen Appaloosa? It's a Western with Ed Harris.
No.
It is a great illustration of how to put grievances aside and deal with the real issue.
Appaloosa?
Non-white people. Yeah, Appaloosa, it's a Western. And I mean, these guys are trying to kill each other. One guy is sleeping with the man's love interest. But when the Indians get to acting up, they said, hey, we got hostiles. We're going to put all this nonsense on pause. We'll deal with it later.
Right. Yeah, they're very good at prioritizing.
And after they dealt with the hostiles, they went right back to killing each other.
That's how the system works. I mean, even in regard to non-white people. I mean, there was somebody was telling me about, this was years ago, about an experiment that they ran where a non-white person facilitating a discussion of some younger non-white people, and they were talking about the system of racism and white supremacy, how it works. He was trying to get the non-white students, the black students, to talk about racism and how it works and whatnot, being mistreated on the basis of color. Just to see how their language, how they would be able to express their experiences in that regard. And at the height of the conversation, he had a white person to come into the classroom and just sit there at the front of the classroom. They didn't say anything. They just sat there. And that changed the entire dynamic of the conversation. I mean, the black students, some of them began to say, why are we talking about this? You're making my head hurt, just different things. And, so not only you can have white people that are fighting each other. You drop a black person in there, and all of a sudden the white people stop fighting each other. Mm-hmm. And, the flip side of that is you can have non-white people talking about, being mistreated on the basis of color, and a white person show up, that conversation come to a screeching halt. Mm-hmm. If we don't have the language to adequately describe the problem.
I know somebody was saying that understanding the system and how it works was like having another degree. That it was that important. I know just listening to you, what you said, Pam, it did seem like you have got another degree. I mean, it's just, you went from, talking about Obama, and which is just totally, it's just non-reality, but more of a entertainment thing, what I'm saying? It was fun. It was like comedy, really, something entertaining. I don't know, feels good, but it didn't really. And then now you're like cut. That's just like a whole nother level, really.
I feel. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying it's like a whole nother level of understanding.
To be honest with you, I don't think I got the degree yet, if I ever get one, but I do feel like I enrolled in the right class for a change. So I don't have a degree, believe that, but at least I have some idea of what what the next step is I should take. So but thank you for the words, because it's encouraging.
Right. It sounds like you passed the entrance exam with flying colors. Yep. I mean, they understand. They understand those like an interest exam. They take the people that got into Harvard, got into Yale, whatever, that didn't go, and the people that went, they pretty much make the same amount of money. And they understand that it's not about so much the time you spent. It was the fact that you were able to get in there, that you qualified for entry.
The beautiful thing is we're all qualified. It's just some folks are just walking in the door. Other people found the classroom. So we're all qualified to do it, and that's the great thing about it is, we can go to their schools and learn what they teach us. Why can't we learn what we really need to learn?
I mean, I wonder about that. Well, so here we go. But I think like with the if you have a white parent or something like that, I mean, it's like you might just from my own family and whatnot. It's like the most intelligent people. I mean, degrees, 3 and 4 degrees, whatever, career students, everything. It's just the fact that being around white people so much, you never get to the point where you will say white people are the problem. I mean, just that right there it seems like it just takes so. I mean, it's so to the point, and people don't want to do it because they have ties with white people. They go to dinner with white people, family reunion, family, holidays and whatnot. So I mean, that's just.
Yeah, that really makes it complicated because I have a situation in my family. It really makes it complicated, and I still haven't figured out what to do regarding that. But I think it's hard because we're so dependent on white people. It's like turning against your mommy and daddy in a very twisted sense,
we don't get a lot of support. I mean, if you take a position as a black person to start viewing white people as the cause of black people problems, and you stay focused on that, you're not going to get a whole lot of support from other black people. But if you want to talk about other black people, I mean, people are going to be coming to pick you up to help you do that. They're going to give you all kinds of support. So.
I said that in a room full of black people, I had to stand by the door just in case because they got upset with me.
It's like Gus says, we have to learn to be uncomfortable. We have to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And people getting mad at you. I had a lady I used to work with. She used to say, "Mad never killed nobody." So basically, people can get mad, but your whole thing is to communicate and try to get people to listen in a constructive way. And if I guess that's it's not going to necessarily supposed to be easy, but we still have to try to do it.
I mean, I heard people
say, don't. I mean, you might get support. I take that back, but don't expect it. Just don't expect it.
I was thinking that people say, you give white people too much credit, and you make white people. That's the argument. That's what I hear more than anything. Black. It's like what you were talking about, that black is beautiful thing. That's what comes up. What do you mean that you're not in power? You trying to say that white people they didn't create anything, and that's where it basically goes. They don't want to. It's like if you say that white people are the problem, like you're taking your own power away from you, And then he said, all that we did in Egypt and all that we did in Africa. What do you mean, So, yeah, especially if you come from a background where, black is beautiful or whatever the case may be, it seems like you're going to have a very hard time convincing them that I mean, not so much that you want to convince them anyway, but I'm just glad I ain't got that kind of background because it just seems like a big stumbling block.
I don't know if I'm going to continue to use the term parent to describe a white person that has a non-white child that they're caring for or living with. I think I'm going to start using the term provider. Give it a little more punch.
Yeah. I mean, I call them enemy just as far as my conditioning goes. It helps me. But I noticed that when I talk to people, they might not, I don't know, it's like they don't really understand. When I say enemy, who I'm talking about specifically, I just take it for granted that you understand that, I don't know. Some people on the phone might not agree that white people are the enemy or whatever, but I just see them as like the enemy, man. And,
no, we have that in common. I mean, I remember the show when the black male that was what's his name, Jermaine. I'm forgetting his last name. The black male that was
Jermaine Carter.
Jermaine Carter, yes. And people were talking about going down there, and I was thinking to myself, you don't have to go all the way down there. You can find the nearest white person to do something. You have to go to Mississippi. Go to your neighbor's house if your neighbor's white.
The other person that called in with a hand up, your line is open as well. If you have a question you wanted to get in, your line is open also.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. This is Nanny.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to hear from you.
Hello.
Thank you. First, I wanted to make a statement. Mr. Williams asked or made the statement about Chinese food, but usually the names of the descriptive names of foods such as Chinese, Cajun, Tex-Mex, Indian, soul food, etc., usually denotes how the foods are prepared. That's my understanding of it. But I have a question for everyone listening. What is constructive criticism?
This is Mr. Williams. I have no idea.
Yeah, I would agree. It sounds like a contradiction to me.
You know, I always ask people for constructive criticism, so I'll give it a shot. To me personally, constructive criticism is where you're telling me something to help me. You know, you're critiquing something. You're not complimenting me. You're trying to tell me. You're giving me information that's going to help me do a better job, do a better book, be a better person, not make some mistake that you clearly see I'm making. That's what I consider constructive. Is you're criticizing, but you're not criticizing and just leaving it hanging. You're giving me some additional information on what you think I could do to make it better. That's what I consider it.
So in your definition, Ms. Pam, it sounds like it's helpful and not negative.
Right. It's not just criticism for the sake of criticism. It's criticism with a goal in mind, or an objective, positive or helpful objective in mind.
So under your definition, is it you think that it's a valid concept?
Well, yeah, I think so. I may be incorrect. I might be wrong, but to me, it's a valid concept that you can criticize something and just criticize to be negative. Just to be criticizing, or you can criticize and try to help the person with the criticism.
So using your definition, would it at any time be okay to discuss non-whites in a constructive, critical way?
Okay, would it be constructive to criticize non-whites in a constructive way? I think it's possible.
This is Minnie B. Can I be heard?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to be visible. Be heard. I think that constructive criticism is one that doesn't have a personal attack behind it. The intent is to give information or instruction or direction that isn't intended to hurt a non-white person. What is the noise?
I hear it too. I try to imagine, could we ever have anything if no one ever commented on what somebody said or did? I mean, how would we function if no one ever had an opinion about what somebody said or what somebody did? Or, for example, talking about Obama, and I got a lot of constructive information. You could call it criticism, but I got a lot of constructive information the last two shows that helped me become less confused. And it could have been seen as criticism. I don't know, but it was constructive. Somebody was trying to help me to see things differently. I don't know if that fits under constructive criticism or not.
To me, that's a critical difference because, I could be wrong, but I believe you were on the program, seeking information. You might have been open to questions, or might have been asking questions too. That's, to me, that's different than, say, just making statements about another victim, or making comments about another victim versus trying to solve a problem with them.
Right. Like the conversation I had with the guy at work, I think he saw it as criticism until I explained why. And then he thought, he came, later on that day, he seemed like he was a little better with it. And it may have sounded like criticism, but it wasn't intended to insult him or to demean him. I was just telling him what I thought it was incorrect and that I wasn't going to do it anymore. So I thought that was, I felt it was constructive. I don't know if he thought it was constructive, but I thought it was. I don't know.
Well, can we discuss Mr. Obama in a critical, constructive manner?
Yes.
Order to do what?
Can we discuss Mr. Obama in a critical, constructive manner?
Yeah, in the context of racism and white supremacy, and it might be a short conversation, but then you get right back to white people.
Well, I asked the question because Mr. Obama put forth policies that affect all of us. And isn't that something that we need to know or discuss if need be? Isn't that a part of white supremacy, racism, his policies?
Yes.
And, of course, I'm well aware that he's not making the policies. He's just the front man. But since he is the front man and he took that role, are we allowed to talk about him?
Well,
and
if he's listening, what do you want to say?
Pardon?
If he's listening, what do you want to say to him?
Well, I've already talked with Mr. Obama. I said it to him some years ago.
I believe that President Obama didn't take anything because he's a victim.
Is it possible to discuss the policy without mentioning his name?
Certainly.
Yeah. Then why not just do that?
Well, we can, but how many people know the policies if he doesn't bring them forth? On the television and the media.
I mean, what is the purpose for discussing the policy? Is the purpose for doing so to talk about Mr. Obama, or is it to discuss the policy and whether or not it will produce what it is said that it will produce?
Well, it is to discuss the policies.
Oh, well.
Because they affect us.
If that's the purpose, then maybe it should be possible then to discuss the policy and the effects of it without talking about any other non-white person. If that's truly the purpose.
See, that takes the fun out of it. I mean, this is.
I'm glad you said that. Right. I am glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because that is so true. That is so true for many non-white people. I'm glad you were honest enough to be truthful about it. Because that rings true for so many non-white people. But the reason that it rings true is because that is what we have been trained to do. It's supposed to feel good to do it. That's what we've been trained to do.
Our people are
Sorry, finger slipped. Sorry.
Oh.
I was waiting for that one to come.
Engineering
to
difficulty.
finish it.
I like that one.
Hey, he just jumped out. He wanted to be heard on that one because it was on time, really.
Right. Our people are not serious.
I'm not sure who it was that said that told the truth about it, that takes the fun out of it. But, I mean, for many non-white people, that's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. We got to change our definition of what fun is.
I think in some languages, fun directly translates into diverting.
Derailing.
If I may briefly comment on the constructive criticism, I'm in agreement also with 909 and Mr. Williams. That term has always been a little confusing to me. And also it reminds me of the term tough love, which is another one. I don't know what that means either.
And I like both of them.
I think it's hard. I think it's very difficult for non-whites to receive constructive criticism, helpful criticism, that if we don't say it right, if we don't do it correct, if we don't do it perfectly, I think that we need to figure out how to accept that there's no ill intent towards us.
Well, you just put a process together. I mean, that'll help you to eliminate that. I mean, if you just practice it such that you only give it to the person that asked for it, and the person that asked for it readies themselves for the worst.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be a problem. You should not cause a problem in doing that. I mean, before you go to giving what you consider to be constructive criticism to somebody, make sure that person has asked you for constructive criticism. And also make sure that you preface to that person, hey, you realize that you might get the worst.
You might get the worst.
You might get the worst asking me for that. Are you sitting down? You know.
You say build a fence around your self-esteem, huh?
Get ready.
Yeah, you get ready for this.
And Mr.
It's
Williams,
going to be a 1-2 punch.
You are absolutely correct. But I am learning and practicing that even there are people who aren't living by a code, but they still have some good information and corrective information and constructive information that that could be useful for me in hearing. And so I find the exercise for me is being able to receive that criticism. I find the exercise and the stress also in being able to listen to and hear what someone else has to say about, either my music or my writing or whatever it is I'm doing, that they're not attacking me personally.
All right, but I mean, there are different ways that you can ask for that. Yeah, there are different ways that you can ask for that, though. I mean, you don't even have to use the word constructive criticism. You can ask a person to help you to improve something. I mean, you can use that kind of language.
That's true, but a lot of people just give it without any prompting. Like your mother.
See, that's going to cause a problem right there.
My mother's not using any code, but I can't dismiss what she's saying entirely.
Excuse
me. And
we're
split down the middle. We're split down the middle. The males are on one side. They don't understand it or they don't see it. And then the women on the other side doing, perhaps that comes from the mothering nature.
Is that nanny?
This is nanny, yes.
I'm inclined to agree with you there, that there's certain sensibilities that mothering instinct brings forth, and also that I know that I have to be. I'm very aware when I'm talking to my son, how I say things to him, information I want him to know. He hasn't asked for it. But he needs to know it before I die.
Well, you're going to have to set an appointment to let him know. I'm being facetious, sorry.
I don't know if Mighty Wick is on. I think with regards to receiving, I guess the term that has been used, constructive criticism or feedback from someone else, at the White Privilege Conference, I think they had a workshop where they were giving out, I guess, codified procedure for being able to receive criticism without getting an attitude or getting upset. You know, if the person does give you the worst and, you know, they tell you everything you did is the worst thing they've ever seen. Mighty Wick, if you're there, do you remember the workshop I'm talking about?
I do remember the workshop. Let me see if I can remember the that process that white people in there used. It looked to be effective. I think what it was is that, you know, somebody was to share a problem that they had, and, you know, they had so much time to share it or something, and then the other people had to listen while she was sharing it, and part of the way they had to listen was to try to minimize any, you know, reaction to what the speaker was saying. So they're supposed to, you know, keep their facial expressions to a minimum, not really give any verbal or audible feedback. And then the person got done, you know, saying whatever they say, and then each other participant, the other listeners would then take, you know, 30 seconds or a minute or whatever and give feedback about what the person said. And then the person is supposed to listen without, you know, showing any sort of response to the feedback they're receiving from each of the other participants. And then after, you know, after everybody gets their turn to share their feedback, and then the original person who stated the problem. As a matter of fact, you know, it's not just feedback. The people are supposed to be trying to give her, I think, solutions or suggestions to, you know, the problem that they share. That was the gist of it. And then so after everybody gives their suggestion to how to solve the problem, then the person, I think, has X amount of time to then, you know, give their views on those solutions, you know, and then keep it moving, then move to the next person and repeat that, I believe.
Was a big part of that procedure like when the people are giving you, you know, their ideas on how you can solve the problem, you're not supposed to say anything, you're not supposed to respond, like no nonverbal communication, like I think it was like you're supposed to, this is the time you use your poker face, like no response whatsoever regardless of what they say, you know, you just listen to it, and after it's over, you take whatever you can use and keep it pushing.
Absolutely, that was a fundamental part of that exercise.
How to play poker.
And I think, you know, what it really brought out was that, you know, we're gonna be sharing information, you know, maximize that and minimize any sort of emotional response to what's being shared. And so, you know, to just maximize the time we're using to solve problems.
Was it good information?
I was, you know, part of the press. I wasn't really there, you know, to critique the information on a usable for me level. So as far as I think they were sharing it for teachers or something like that, and it sounded like they were trying to teach each other better ways of how to practice racism with the non-white students that they had.
Did you say to practice racism?
Yes, ma'am.
He said that they're teaching them ways of refining racist practices. Wow. I agree. I just from what I heard, I agree with you, man. I agree. Dang, that's crazy. But I don't know. Pam, do you have a pen?
Sorry, do I have a pen?
Yeah, I wanted you to write this down.
Oh.
I think this would.
Okay.
I think you would enjoy this.
Okay, let me get a pen. Okay, I'm ready.
The screw tape letters.
The screw tape.
Letters.
Spelled as it sounds?
Screw tape, yeah. SCREWTAPE.
Okay.
It basically gives you example after example of how the enemy basically perverts our natural tendencies. I think you would really appreciate it. It's nothing long or anything. You can get through them very fast, and I think from what from where you've come with Obama and everything like that, I think you would appreciate it, and so I think it's important actually, and yeah, just wanted to hopefully you'll read them.
Oh, thank you. Can I find them online?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll do a Google on it.
I have another question. It's relating to what Mr. Williams and Ms. Pam was talking about earlier. And supposedly black men are very protective of their mothers. So what happens to this protectiveness when they are drawn into relationships of dating, sexual, marriage with white folk?
You say protective.
Well, one good example is the guest Mr. Gus had on a few days ago. I can't remember his name, but he was a black man, and he had a white mother. And the question got to his white mother, and he got very, very defensive.
Jared
he
Bell.
also, I'm sorry, yeah. He also stated that men are very protective of their mothers. So what happens when they get involved with white people, white women? Do they lose it? I don't understand that.
Pretty much the same thing that happens when you have a black male and a white female that are having sexual intercourse with each other, and they are in the same room with you, and you are talking about white people. I mean, that's essentially the same dynamic. You're going to get the non-white person to defend the white person. I mean, you start talking about white people, and the non-white people are going to jump up to their defense. Anytime you have that kind of an attachment, whether that attachment is through birth or that attachment is through sex, you're going to get that kind of reaction.
Well, may I ask, whenever you've been approached by white women and they attempt to, or they do talk about black women in a bad light, do you ever say to them that you're talking about my mother, grandmother, sister, aunt, female cousins, nieces?
Oh no, I don't ever use that kind of language. Because I try to make the conversation as businesslike as possible. Now, what I mean by that is I understand that the white person is attempting to practice the business of racism, white supremacy, and I make sure that I am attempting to practice the business of producing justice, counter racism, and so I keep it on those terms, and I try not to, and I have been extremely successful at not letting the conversation drift off to talk about anything else. And I don't want it to be a long, drawn out conversation. Where we are discussing whether or not her ancestors kept my ancestors in bondage. I keep the conversation focused on right then, right there, and we are at war with each other. If a white female is trying to get me in a bed with her, we are at war with each other. So I keep the conversation as businesslike as possible, and by doing so, it keeps the conversation extremely short. I tell you, it doesn't last very long at all. She might spend 5 minutes, doing her spiel. I'm going to spend less than 15 seconds saying what I got to say, and the conversation is going to be over. I'm not going to talk about my mother or her mother or my father or her father. Now, I'm not saying that non-white people should not talk about that. I mean, if you deem it necessary to do so, then by all means do so. But from my experience, I have found it best not to drift off into any other kind of conversations. Bringing anything else into the conversation only gives them a way out. I'm not sure if you've had very many conversations with white people, especially giving them the impression that you know how the system of racism, white supremacy works. But I'm telling you, they will look for loopholes and everything else. Oh, real? Oh, yeah. I mean, just try it out. Don't take my word for it. Try it out.
Constantly.
You can find out when you go online and you get involved in some debate. They'll try one tactic, and if that doesn't work, they'll come around the back way, and then they'll resort to flattery, and then they'll act like, are they reasonable? And then they'll, it's just, it's like they're just trying things out on you to see which one you're going to fall for.
On and on and on and on. To the break of dawn. I'm telling you. You keep giving them ammunition. I'm telling you. You just keep giving them ammunition and watch what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've observed that exact same behavior with white people. I got a term I use when they do that. I call it swine, 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 which is a specific white interference at a non-white person's expense.
Very clever. Very good. Can I use that?
That's the reason I keep my mic muted, because when I hear things like that, I am liable to just blurt out and start laughing. I apologize for that, but I do that frequently. That's excellent. That's excellent.
I mean, black people are in trouble.
Could you repeat that? I have a pen now.
Oh, sure. It's a swine, SWINE. Specific interruption or interference at a non-white person's expense.
Got it.
I mean, just the focus that it takes to come up with words and terms to help a person to understand what it is that they're looking at. Just the focus it takes to do that. That is excellent.
I wrote it down.
You got to do it because these things, I mean, are happening. It's like you got to come up with some way to talk about it. You know, it's right in your face and it's worldwide. You know.
I was just thinking of Timothy Wise. When white people start saying, "Yeah, we're the problem," that's gonna. I think that's gonna be a big stumbling block. Also,
how so?
They're gonna come around and start saying we're the problem, and then people are not gonna know exactly how to react to that. Because Timothy said that when he does his thing. He said black people trust him even more. They say, "Oh, he can't be lying." I mean, he's even saying that, white people are the problem. So,
Oh, you just have the M&M effect. I mean, I don't know if you saw that movie, where I think it was 8 Mile, where the non-white rapper was talking about him. He just started talking about himself. See what I mean? I mean, that removes, then another white person becomes confused. They don't know what to do. I mean, how are you going to talk about the person? They talking about themselves. They beating up on themselves. And when they start doing that, they pulling the rug right out from under you. If you don't understand what it is that you look at. Say again?
So kick them while they're down?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
I was saying that you're saying that they pull the rug out from under the non-white person when they start saying, if white people start saying it's all about that we're the problem, they're the problem. So instead of being thrown off or having the rug pulled out from under us, just go ahead and say, yes, you are, and let me tell you more.
Now, get them to explain. Yeah, get them to, if white people start saying that they are the problem, get them to explain how it is that they are the problem, and also what it is that non-white people need to do about it. Get them to explain that. Yeah, you got a lot of white people right now running around talking about all white people are racist white supremacists, but they never tell non-white people what it is that you need to do. They never talk about that. I mean, you got white people who are producing offspring with non-white people, and the offspring are confused.
Yep.
The so-called white parents say, "Hey, look, don't pay no attention to those white people over there. They are just racist." But they won't never tell the child what to do in response to it.
And that's something?
You know, it just keeps the non-white people confused. No, don't you start telling them when they start talking about white people are the problem. You get them to explain in detail what exactly it is that they are talking about and what it is that you can do about it that will neutralize that behavior. And you watch how short the conversation gets.
You know, that's really something to think about, though, for those folks that are have considered or are considering or, breeding with white people. Is here you've got a parent that puts the importance of maintaining the system of white supremacy above the welfare of their own child because they know their child is going to be mistreated, and yet they remain silent. Now, why would you breed with a person like that?
Hey, we got white people traveling halfway around the world, picking up non-white children and bringing them back.
Right.
And we know that they are victims of racism, They know that they're victims of racism and white supremacy.
And they know they're going to put them in a hostile environment.
They know that. They're already in one. Even when they go pick them up, they're in one.
Right. And we applaud it. Oh, we're wonderful white people. Taking our kids so we don't have to take care of them. Half the time buying them.
And driving them crazy.
I just saw an episode on television. I was flipping through that show called The Nanny, and there was a white woman who had adopted 4 non-white children from various countries. South America, Africa, and another country. And her husband was in the military, so he's away for war, and it was just a sad sight to see. And I thought to myself, how do you adopt children from 4 different countries with 4 different backgrounds, 4 different cultures, and you expect you to be able to provide or help them understand what's happening? It was tragic. I just had to turn the channel because
you don't even respect their cultures. So now you're going to take them from these cultures, from their family, and you don't even have respect for the people that you took them from. And what are you going to teach those children? My whole thing is that these celebrities, it's nonsense for them to adopt children. They don't have black friends. They're not in black circles. They don't even particularly work with or care for black people. And if they were really sincere, they could take the money they spent on one Birkenstock bag and supply a village with, help a village out for a year. So if they were really sincere, they wouldn't take children away from their parents.
See, everything that a racist white supremacist does supports the system.
Right.
White supremacy. I mean, you got to understand their view of the world.
Okay.
In their view of the world, there are white people and everything else. That's how they run the planet. Right. There are white people and everything else. Their view of the world, there's only one family. That is the family of white people. They are not concerned about anything else. That's how they view the world. There's only one nation, the nation of white people, who mistreat people on the basis of color and nothing else.
Yeah.
That's how they view the world. So when they are talking about this nation or that nation or whatnot, those are just words that they're using to keep people confused. That has nothing to do with their worldview. So
we're being bombarded with white supremacy and racism. I received a catalog in the mail, and it's called a beauty catalog. I'm not going to give you the full name. But on the very cover, they're selling a moisturizing, skin lightening soap. And I would think any catalog that's trying to sell something, they would put their best product on the cover. So I'm assuming that's one of their better selling products. And you can get it for only $3.99 if you need to lighten up your skin. So it's affordable.
Yeah, I think I saw something about it was a television program on where it was a young black female. She was overweight, and they were talking about her mother or somebody on the program was talking about all of the skin lightening products that she uses on a daily basis and how much it costs. Did anybody else see that on television?
No, I didn't.
No.
No. So how do we combat this bombardment? It's just like, as someone said, we're getting bombed. They're shooting from every direction that you could think of.
We're doing it now.
I mean, respect yourself. Respect yourself to the highest degree. And whatever that, learn, read. I mean, just get to the point where, you know, you're following through. You're actualizing what you've learned. And yeah, if you're a living contradiction, then I mean, it's just not going to work. So if you're not actualizing what you learn, you're not reading, if you don't respect yourself, if you're blaming victims and know better, I mean, you have to stop. I mean, I say justice now all the time. Like now, it can happen tomorrow if people would just, you know, respect themselves and do what they have to do.
You're doing it right now. You're talking about working against the system. You're thinking about working against the system. You're seeking knowledge about working against the system. We're doing it now. We need to do more of it. Normalize it so that more non-white people will do more of it.
I mean, you influence people. Like what you said, Pam, earlier. That's. I mean, females that hear that, especially younger females that hear that, what you said, man, I know it's gonna inspire them. So, I mean, we inspire people, man. You know, if you respect yourself, people see that. Especially, and if you're dark skinned and you're not ashamed of your skin or however, you know, that's something too. You know, instead of not wanting to be dark, even if you just. Man, it's so much, man. It's like, if you're a dark-skinned person, you're saying, oh, I don't want to be in the sun, and just those little comments, the babies be hearing it, and it's just reverberates through the whole, you know, so-called neighborhood or whatever. So we have to stop doing that kind of stuff, man.
Be more conscious of what we say. Like you were just saying, you know, don't say black and ugly. Don't talk about good hair. Don't talk about pretty eyes. Don't talk about pretty skin. And if people are saying that around your children or younger people, tell them, you know, I don't know. This is just my attitude, is to, you know, in a as peaceful way as possible, and say, you know, why would you say that? Don't, you know, what is wrong with this skin? What's wrong with this hair? And let them tell you. And the one thing else I would add too is, for me personally, I don't support any entertainment that degrades black people. I don't go to the movies. I don't buy this record. And so when somebody, for example, invites you to a movie, like the latest what's his name, Lawrence Martin movie, and you just say, well, you know, I don't see stuff like that, and tell them why. And I actually had a conversation with several